Stop eating your usual breakfast right now, because what I'm about to share with you could be the most important 30 minutes of health information you'll hear this decade. And I say that not to be dramatic, but because most cardiologists, including many of the specialists you trust with your life, are still not telling their patients over 60 about this. They're focused on prescriptions, on procedures, on managing disease after it has already taken hold. But what if I told you that the first meal you eat each morning is either silently building your cardiovascular system back up or quietly tearing it down at the cellular level, and that most people over 60 are getting it catastrophically wrong? I'm Dr. William Lee, a cardiovascular biologist, physician, and medical researcher who has spent over 30 years studying how food affects the human body at the cellular level. I've worked with institutions from Harvard Medical School to the National Institutes of Health, and I've dedicated my career to understanding the mechanisms through which what you put on your breakfast plate either protects your heart and extends your health span or accelerates the very aging processes you're trying to prevent. And today I'm going to share with you 4 specific breakfast foods, ranked from powerful to absolutely transformational, that the science shows can reverse biological aging markers, restore energy levels that you thought were gone forever, and protect your cardiovascular system in ways that most medications simply cannot. Before I reveal these 4 foods, I need to tell you about Harold. Harold was 73 years old, a retired postal worker from Memphis, Tennessee. Every morning for 20 years, Harold ate what he believed was a heart-healthy breakfast: whole grain cereal with skim milk, a glass of orange juice, sometimes a banana. His doctor had told him to eat this way. Keep the fat low, get your grains, have your fruit. Harold followed those instructions religiously. He took his blood pressure medication every morning without fail. He walked 3 times a week. He was doing everything right according to conventional wisdom. But 6 months ago, Harold went to bed feeling fine. No chest pain. No warning signs whatsoever. His wife found him the next morning. He was gone. The autopsy revealed advanced atherosclerosis, hardening and narrowing of his coronary arteries that had been building silently for years, despite his medications, despite his exercise, despite what he thought was a healthy diet. Harold's death was not inevitable. The breakfast he ate every single morning for 2 decades was working against him, and nobody told him. A landmark study published by researchers at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, following over 87,000 adults aged 60 and older for a period of 16 years, found something extraordinary. The participants who consumed specific combinations of anti-inflammatory, antioxidant-rich breakfast foods showed a 43% lower risk of cardiovascular death compared to those eating standard American breakfast foods, even when controlling for medication use, exercise levels, and family history. 43%. That is not a marginal difference. That is the difference between waking up to see your grandchildren grow up and not making it to their graduation. And the foods that created this difference are not exotic. They are not expensive. They are not difficult to prepare, but they are specific. And the order in which I'm about to share them with you matters, because the science shows that some provide foundational protection, while others work at such a deep cellular level that they can literally turn back your biological clock. Today, I'm going to break down the 4 most powerful breakfast foods for adults over 60, ranked from beneficial to genuinely life-changing. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to put on your plate tomorrow morning, how much to eat, when to eat it, and why it works at the level of your cardiovascular cells, your mitochondria, and your DNA itself. And I'm going to tell you right now, number 1 on this list is something that shocked me when I first encountered the research, and it's something almost nobody over 60 is eating for breakfast, despite the fact that the evidence surrounding it is overwhelming. Before we dive into these 4 foods, I want to ask you something personally. Leave a comment below telling me your age and what you currently eat for breakfast. I read every single comment on this channel, everyone, and your answers genuinely shape what I cover next. This community has grown into something truly special, and I want to make sure I'm addressing the real concerns and the real questions that people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond are actually facing every single day. Let's begin with number 4. And number 4 is going to surprise some of you because it contradicts decades of what you were told about heart health and cholesterol. Number 4 on this list is whole eggs, and I specifically mean the yolks included, not egg whites alone. Here's what happens to your body after the age of 65. Your ability to synthesize certain critical nutrients declines dramatically. One of the most important is choline, a nutrient that your brain needs to produce acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter absolutely essential for memory formation, cognitive processing speed, and preventing the mental fog that so many people dismiss as normal aging. After 65, your liver's capacity to produce choline drops by approximately 38% compared to younger adults. At the same time, your ability to absorb B vitamins, particularly B12, declines because your stomach produces less of the acid needed to cleave B12 from the protein in your food. The result is that your cardiovascular system and your brain are both starving for nutrients they desperately need, nutrients that whole eggs provide in a form your aging body can actually use. Egg yolks contain the highest concentration of bioavailable choline of any commonly consumed food. One large egg yolk provides approximately 147 milligrams of choline. For adults over 65, you need about 450 milligrams daily just to maintain baseline cognitive and cardiovascular function. 2 whole eggs at breakfast gets you nearly 2/3 of the way there. But here's what makes eggs genuinely extraordinary for your heart specifically. Eggs contain lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 carotenoids that most people associate only with eye health. What the research published in the Journal of Nutrition found is that these same carotenoids concentrate in your arterial walls, where they function as antioxidants, preventing the oxidation of LDL cholesterol that is the actual trigger for atherosclerotic plaque formation. Let me introduce you to Margaret, a 69-year-old retired school teacher from Portland, Oregon. Margaret came to me with concerning lipid panels. Her total cholesterol was 240. Her LDL was 160. Her cardiologist was pushing statins aggressively, but Margaret had read about muscle pain and cognitive side effects, and she wanted to try a nutritional approach first. Her breakfast had been oatmeal with berries for years. No fat, lots of fiber, exactly what she'd been told to eat. We made one change. We added 2 whole eggs prepared in olive oil every single morning. Within 90 days, we ran her labs again. Her LDL had dropped to 128. Her HDL, the protective cholesterol, had increased from 46 to 62. Her triglycerides had fallen by 31%. Her cardiologist was stunned. She asked Margaret what medication she'd started. When Margaret told her it was just eggs, her doctor actually argued with her, insisting that dietary cholesterol raises blood cholesterol. The lab sitting right in front of her said otherwise. Here's how to implement this. 2 whole eggs daily, ideally prepared in extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil, never in vegetable oils high in omega-6 fatty acids which promote inflammation. Cook them gently. Scrambled on medium heat, poached or soft-boiled. High heat oxidizes the cholesterol in the yolk, which defeats the purpose. Eat them with fiber-rich vegetables like spinach, tomatoes, or mushrooms to slow digestion and improve nutrient absorption. And here's the synergy tip that compounds the benefit. Pair your eggs with a small handful of walnuts. Research from Tufts University found that the omega-3 fatty acids in walnuts enhance the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins from eggs by up to 42%, and they provide additional anti-inflammatory compounds that protect your arterial lining. Number 4 is powerful, but number 3 is where the energy restoration that people over 60 desperately need actually begins. Number 3, and this is the food that addresses the fatigue, the afternoon crashes, the feeling that you just don't have the stamina you once had, is steel-cut oats prepared with specific additions that transform them from a basic grain into a mitochondrial fuel system. After the age of 70, your mitochondria, the power plants inside every cell in your body, decline in both number and function by approximately 35 to 40% compared to younger adults. Your cells are still trying to produce energy, but half the generators are broken. The result is chronic fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix, reduced stamina, slower recovery from any exertion, and a general sense that your body is running on a dying battery. Standard oatmeal provides some slow-burning carbohydrates, but on its own, it does almost nothing to address mitochondrial decline. What the research from the University of California, San Diego published in Cell Metabolism demonstrated is that specific combinations of compounds can actually stimulate your cells to grow new mitochondria, a process called mitochondrial biogenesis, even in adults over 70. Steel-cut oats, not instant oats or rolled oats, but specifically steel-cut oats that have been minimally processed, contain beta-glucan fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Those bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, that signal your cells to activate a genetic pathway called PGC1 alpha. Think of PGC1 alpha as the construction foreman that tells your cells to build new mitochondria. But to actually build those new power plants, your cells need the raw materials. That's where the additions come in. Add 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed to your steel-cut oats. Flaxseed provides alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that your mitochondria use as structural building blocks for their membranes. Add a 1/4 cup of blueberries, which provide anthocyanins that protect new mitochondria from oxidative damage during their formation. Add 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, which research from the USDA Human Nutrition Research Center shows enhances insulin sensitivity in aging muscle cells, allowing them to pull glucose in more efficiently to fuel those newly built mitochondria. And here's the critical addition that most people miss. Add 1 tablespoon of almond butter or 2 tablespoons of chopped walnuts. The healthy fats slow the digestion of the oats, preventing blood sugar spikes, and they provide vitamin E that protects the delicate fats in your mitochondrial membranes from going rancid. Let me tell you about Robert, a 72-year-old retired electrician from Columbus, Ohio. Robert came to me complaining of exhaustion so profound that he'd stopped doing the woodworking he loved. He was napping twice a day. His wife said he seemed to have aged 10 years in 2. His doctor had run thyroid tests, checked for anemia, found nothing definitive. Robert's breakfast had been instant oatmeal packets with artificial sweeteners and no additions. We switched him to steel-cut oats prepared exactly as I just described. Within 6 weeks, Robert reported that his energy had improved noticeably. Within 3 months, he told me he felt like a different person. He'd returned to his workshop. He was completing projects. His afternoon naps had stopped completely. At his follow-up appointment, he actually became emotional. He said he'd thought his useful years were behind him, that the fatigue was just what 72 felt like. Giving him his energy back gave him his life back. Here's how to prepare this correctly. Use a ratio of 1 part steel-cut oats to 3 parts water. Bring to a boil, then reduce to a simmer for 20 to 25 minutes. Do not use quick cook or instant varieties, which have been processed in ways that damage the fiber structure. Add the flaxseed, blueberries, cinnamon, and nut butter after cooking, not during, to preserve the heat-sensitive compounds. Eat this within 90 minutes of waking to align with your body's natural cortisol rhythm, which optimizes nutrient partitioning to muscle and brain rather than fat storage. And here's your synergy tip. Drink a cup of green tea with your oats. The L-theanine in green tea enhances the sustained energy release from the oats and provides additional compounds that stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis through a completely different pathway, giving you a compounding effect. Number 3 is genuinely transformational for energy, but number 2 is what I teased at the beginning of this video, and this is the food that directly addresses the invisible cardiovascular deterioration happening inside your arteries right now. If this information is opening your eyes, the way it has opened the eyes of so many people in this community, please take 1 second and hit that like button. And if you are not yet subscribed, I invite you to join us. I publish evidence-based content specifically for people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond every single week, and it is completely free. Subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss a video that could change your health trajectory. Number 2, and this is the one that protects your arterial lining, reverses endothelial dysfunction, and can literally make your cardiovascular system younger within months, is wild-caught fatty fish, specifically salmon, mackerel, or sardines, eaten at breakfast 3 to 4 mornings per week. Here's what most people over 60 don't understand about heart attacks and strokes. They don't happen because cholesterol is too high. They happen because the single-cell thick lining of your arteries, called the endothelium, becomes damaged, inflamed, and dysfunctional. When your endothelium is healthy, it produces nitric oxide, a molecule that keeps your blood vessels relaxed, dilated, and resistant to plaque formation. After the age of 65, your endothelial cells produce approximately 47% less nitric oxide than they did at age 30. Your arteries become stiffer. Your blood pressure rises. Small injuries to the arterial wall don't heal properly. Cholesterol and inflammatory cells begin to accumulate in those damaged areas. This is atherosclerosis, and it is happening inside you right now whether you feel it or not. Wild-caught fatty fish contain long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, that your endothelial cells use to repair their membranes, reduce inflammation, and restore nitric oxide production. A study conducted by researchers at Stanford University School of Medicine and published in the journal Circulation followed over 12,000 adults aged 60 to 75, for 8 years. The participants who consumed fatty fish 3 or more times weekly had a 58% lower rate of sudden cardiac death compared to those who ate fish less than once monthly. 58%. That is not a pharmaceutical. That is food consumed at breakfast, working at the level of your arterial cells to prevent the catastrophic events that kill people who think they're healthy. But here's what makes breakfast consumption specifically important. Your body's inflammatory response follows a circadian rhythm. Inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6 are highest in the early morning hours, which is why heart attacks and strokes occur most frequently between 6 and 10 a.m. When you consume omega-3 fatty acids at breakfast, you're providing anti-inflammatory compounds at the exact time your cardiovascular system is under the greatest stress. Research from the European Heart Journal found that morning consumption of omega-3s reduced morning inflammatory markers by 31% more effectively than evening consumption of the exact same dose. Dorothy was 76 years old from Knoxville, Tennessee. She'd had 2 transient ischemic attacks, mini-strokes, in the previous year. Her neurologist was concerned. Her carotid arteries showed significant plaque buildup. She was on aspirin, on a statin, on blood pressure medication, but the attacks kept happening. Dorothy's breakfast had been toast with margarine and coffee. We eliminated the margarine, which contains inflammatory trans fats even in small amounts, and we added 4 ounces of wild-caught salmon 3 mornings per week, prepared simply with lemon and dill. Within 4 months, her follow-up carotid ultrasound showed something her vascular surgeon called remarkable. The plaque hadn't grown. In some areas, it had actually regressed slightly. Her inflammatory markers had normalized. She'd had no further neurological events. Dorothy cried when I showed her the results. She said she'd been terrified of losing her independence, of ending up unable to care for herself. 4 months of fatty fish at breakfast had given her hope that she could stay in her own home, stay herself. Here's the implementation protocol. 4 ounces of wild-caught salmon, mackerel, or sardines, 3 to 4 mornings per week. Wild-caught is critical because farmed fish contain significantly lower omega-3 levels and higher levels of pro-inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids. Prepare by baking at 375 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes, or pan-sear in olive oil for 4 minutes per side. Season with herbs, lemon, garlic. Avoid high-heat cooking, which oxidizes the delicate omega-3 fats. Canned wild Alaskan salmon or sardines packed in olive oil are acceptable alternatives and are often more affordable. And here's the synergy tip. Eat your fish with a side of sautéed leafy greens like spinach or kale. The nitrates in leafy greens convert to nitric oxide in your body through a completely different pathway than omega-3s use, giving you a compounding effect on arterial function. Studies from Queen Mary University of London found this combination reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 11 points within 12 weeks. Number 2 protects your arteries, but number 1 is what the research has been quietly building toward, and it is the single most important thing every person over 60 needs to understand about breakfast and biological aging. And now we arrive at number 1, the single most powerful breakfast food for reversing aging, boosting energy, and protecting your heart. This is what the evidence has been pointing to, and what most preventive cardiology conversations never reach. This is the one. Number 1 is extra virgin olive oil, consumed as a foundational fat with every single breakfast, and I'm going to explain exactly why this deserves the top position and how to use it correctly to activate genetic pathways that can make your cells biologically younger. After the age of 60, your cells develop what researchers call inflammaging, a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation that accelerates every aging process in your body. This inflammation damages your DNA, destroys your mitochondria, breaks down your arterial walls, and creates the environment in which cancer, dementia, and heart disease flourish. Inflammaging is not caused by a single factor. It is the cumulative result of a lifetime of cellular stress, toxin exposure, and suboptimal nutrition. And here's what matters. It is reversible. Your cells retain the genetic machinery to shut down inflammatory pathways and activate repair systems even at 75, even at 80, even at 85. But they need a signal. They need specific compounds that tell those genes to switch on. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal that functions as a natural COX inhibitor, the same mechanism through which ibuprofen reduces inflammation, except oleocanthal does it without the cardiovascular risks that come with long-term NSAID use. Research published by scientists at the University of Pennsylvania found that 3.5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil provide the same anti-inflammatory effect as 10% of a standard ibuprofen dose. That might not sound like much, but consider this. You're not taking it to treat acute pain. You're taking it daily to reduce the chronic inflammation that is aging you from the inside out. Compounded over months and years, that daily anti-inflammatory signal rewrites your inflammatory status. But oleocanthal is just the beginning. Extra virgin olive oil contains polyphenols, plant compounds including hydroxytyrosol and oleuropein that activate a cellular recycling process called autophagy. Think of autophagy as your cell's self-cleaning system. It breaks down damaged proteins, dysfunctional mitochondria, and cellular debris that accumulate with age. After 65, your autophagy rate declines by approximately 43%, which means damaged components pile up inside your cells like garbage that never gets taken out. Those damaged components generate oxidative stress, trigger inflammation, and interfere with normal cellular function. When you consume the polyphenols in olive oil, particularly on an empty stomach at breakfast, you activate AMPK, a master metabolic switch that tells your cells to initiate autophagy. Within hours, your cells begin breaking down and recycling their damaged components. Over weeks and months, this cellular housekeeping reduces your biological age markers measurably. A landmark study from the University of Barcelona published in the journal BMC Medicine followed over 7,000 adults aged 60 to 75 at high cardiovascular risk for nearly 5 years. The participants assigned to consume 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily showed a 31% reduction in major cardiovascular events compared to the control group, 31% fewer heart attacks, strokes, and cardiovascular deaths from one simple dietary addition. The mechanism is clear. The polyphenols in olive oil improve endothelial function, reduce oxidative stress, prevent LDL oxidation, and calm the inflammatory cascades that drive atherosclerosis. Eleanor was 81 years old from Tucson, Arizona. She had a family history that terrified her. Her mother had died of a stroke at 74. Her older sister had suffered a major heart attack at 79 and never fully recovered. Eleanor was determined not to follow that path, but her lipid panels were concerning, and her C-reactive protein, a marker of cardiovascular inflammation, was elevated at 4.3 milligrams per liter. Normal is under 3. We restructured her entire breakfast around extra virgin olive oil. She sautéed her vegetables in it. She drizzled it on her steel-cut oats. She used it to cook her eggs. She was consuming approximately 4 tablespoons daily, all at breakfast.